The White Scars, originally known as the Star Hunters, were the 5th legion of the original 20 Space Marine legions of the first founding. Their Primark is Jaghatai Khan. During the Horus heresy, the White Scars remained loyal to the Emperor, after which they reorganized and split into chapters. Drawing on the tribal savagery of their homeworld, the White Scars practice a highly mobile method of warfare, tearing into their enemies with lightning-quick attacks and vanishing before a response can be made. Despite being characterized as barbarians, the White Scars are a highly cultured chapter, with poetry among their most respected and ancient traditions. The chapter is highly mobile even for Space Marines, specializing in lightning warfare and making use of attack bikes, land speeders, storm talons, and other fast vehicles. Those mounted on bikes often make use of a special type of power weapon called a power lance, providing the same destructive potential at a much greater range. Heavily armored forces are often left chasing after shadows, while the White Scars easily outmaneuver to attack them at their weakest point. Constantly retreating and turning to attack again, White Scars forces prefer to attack their enemy at range, using their speed and firepower to destroy them, but are more than capable of committing their assault squads in ferocious hand-to-hand fighting. Despite the ferocity of their assaults, the White Scars, in fact, employ nuanced and complex combat maneuvers, and their warriors are expected to be calm and in total control of themselves during battle. The chapter organization of the White Scars reflects their homeworld's tribal culture. For example, librarians are referred to as storm seers. White Scars recruit from a single planet, Mundus Planus. The steppes of the world are inhabited by feuding tribes, from which are chosen the best and most promising young warriors, regardless of tribe. Once a warrior becomes a White Scar, loyalty to his tribe is replaced by loyalty to the chapter and the Emperor. Another noted difference with the White Scars is the absence of any unit associated with military law. Unlike the Space Wolves, who in the Heresy era relied heavily on consul obsequiari disciplinary officers, the White Scars never operated with any sort of disciplinary corps. Despite this, they have virtually no internal disputes or active undisciplined behavior. Despite their reputation as savages, the White Scars are an extremely cultured chapter that emphasizes art, poetry, stoicism, philosophy, and self-reflection in its warriors. Members of the chapter are expected to be well-versed in the linguistic, historical, and artistic history of Chogoris. Other noble pursuits of Battle Brothers include calligraphy, hunting, storytelling, winemaking, archery, horse taming, throat singing, astrology, painting, crafting, weaving, and mastery of the difficult Chogorian language. This is mixed with more seemingly primitive practices, such as ritual scarring, which marks the loyalty and brotherhood of a Space Marine. The ritual scarring mimics that of the tribes of Chogoris and is carried out with the same ritual Jalodag daggers. Once the chosen shape has been cut, ash is used to raise the tissue and whiten the reside ridge, creating the White Scar that gives the chapter its name. The White Scars were the 5th legion of Space Marine legions created by the Emperor. They first saw action during the Unification Wars on Terra, held apart from their brothers and rarely found in massed armies. Recruits were primarily drawn from the ice wastes of the Thulian Basin. They were nonetheless one of the first legions to see action in the name of the Emperor, fighting alongside the older Thunder Warriors. The early 5th Legion was given the solitary duty of seeking out the hidden lairs of many demagogues and warlords that ruled Terra. Their superhuman physiology allowed them to survive in the most radiation-contaminated areas of the planet and operate deep in enemy territory to scout and harass. In these early days, the Legion numbered only a few hundred warriors and frequently weakened the enemy in preparation for the arrival of the Emperor's main armies. However, the Star Hunters, as they eventually become known as, were noted as being free-spirited and tending to ignore orders given to them by anyone other than the Emperor himself. They operated without glory, far from the center of the conflict. Their famous early battles, such as the raid of the Albion fortress of Doubre or the 83-day battle in the catacombs of Kadiru against Ursh forces, went largely unrecorded. Few within the Star Hunters showed any outrage at this slight, and they even took a quiet pride in their silent role. Nonetheless, they were further isolated from their peers and became known as Terra's Forgotten Sons. As the Unification Wars spiraled into the Great Crusade, the Star Hunters were among the first Astartes to depart the Sol system. They were split into 100 companies and acted as pioneers, charting and seeking out domains for the Crusade's expeditionary fleets. Once again, these expeditions received little attention or praise and found the Star Hunters as the outsiders and other of the Imperium's armies. Nonetheless, one such pioneer company discovered Chthoniya, homeworld of Horus, and this cemented a bond with the Primark for years to come. Their early experience in pioneering and scouting also saw the Star Hunters master the art of hit-and-run and maneuver warfare that would come to define them in the future. Soon enough, the Star Hunters were known not only as pioneers, but also as raiders who struck swiftly and without warning, drawing out a foe and testing it before broadcasting the data to allied expeditionary fleets. In these early days, the Star Hunters lived by a single creed: each new day is a victory. This motto arose due to the Legion sustaining heavy losses and slowly but surely eroding under the pressures of its duties. Rather than ask for aid, they chose to instead live and die in the manner and locations of their choice. It was at this near-breaking point that their Primark Jaghatai Khan was discovered after 50 long years of searching. Upon meeting the Emperor, Jaghatai recognized him as a man who embodied his ultimate ideal, someone who could unite all the stars of the sky. At his palace at Quanzhou, he swore allegiance to the Emperor and was given command of the 5th Legion. The Astartes adopted the facial ritual scars of the Tulskar tribesmen, while many of Khan's loyal tribesmen were allowed to join the Legion. Jaghatai's palace, located in the rugged, lonely mountain passes of the Kum Kata Mountains, would become the Legion's fortress monastery. However, the Khan was unfamiliar with the advanced technologies and tactics of the Imperium and took a longer and more difficult period to adjust from his life on primitive Chogoris than most Primarchs. The Khan found himself as lord of a legion of vagabonds spread out across the galaxy, but nonetheless effectively rebuilt the Star Hunters into a new force similar to the armies he had employed on Chogoris. In the 30th millennium, a full 10 years after his discovery, the Khan finally mustered all of the remaining pioneer companies on Chogoris and declared that they would be unified in a shared tradition and ritual. In an event known as the Blooding, 50,000 warriors took up knives and marked themselves with a scar and new Chogorian name. Among these new traditions was the study of noble pursuits such as calligraphy, hunting, and the reciting of oral tales. However, this blend of primitive and enlightened put him at odds with some aspects of the imperial truth and brought him into conflict with Primarchs such as Guilliman and Lorgar. The Legion fought many bloody battles during the Great Crusade, and under Jaghatai Khan, they became infamous for their fast attacks and hit-and-run assaults. Of the 80,000 warriors under the Khan's command, 1 in 10 would perish over the next 5 years fighting in a region of space known as the Kolana Circle. These campaigns were waged against foes such as the Orcs of Sengir Ma and the Vorgeist. The Khan reshaped the Legion into utilizing the same hit-and-run and fast maneuver tactics he had mastered on Chogoris, outmatching every foe they came across. The Khan always fought at the forefront of every attacking, earning the respect of his Legion. In the final battle of the Kalana Circle on desolate Kalan itself, the Khan emerged victorious and the entire region fell into his hands. The battle was more than an impressive victory. It served to bind the Legion together and blend the recruits from Terra with those from Chogoris. Later, during the war against the Nephilim on Hode in the Legion, became known as the White Scars, a term derived from a fused corruption of a Chogorian tribe name and a reference to their new ivory livery. Other sources state that they took on the title of White Scars during their assembly by the Khan on Chogoris. The White Scars earned much glory and victory during this period, but were still largely neglected by the historians of the Imperium. Others considered them savages akin to the warriors of Angron or Leman Russ. Yet in truth, they were learned warriors skilled in craftsmanship, art, and philosophy. The warriors of the Legion were far more disciplined and professional than those of the World Eaters or Space Wolves. They found no joy in slaughter and were only merciless when necessary or against a worthy foe they could test their full ability against. The Scars made no effort to show the Greater Imperium their true selves and showed no indignation at their false labels. Jaghatai Khan and his Legion had spent several years in a campaign against the Orcs of the Chondak system, which had been intentionally prolonged by the Alpha Legion, when news about the betrayal of Horus and the Dropsite massacre arrived. They were urged by Rogel Dawn to return to Terra. The Khan was contacted by Leman Russ, who had just returned from Prospero and offered to join forces with him. Horus, however, had anticipated this and sent the Alpha Legion to launch an assault on Russ's outnumbered Space Wolves, where they were defeated at Yarant. Although he despised leaving the Space Wolves on their own and was faced with dangerous warp storms, Jaghatai Khan followed Dawn's urgent request to return to Terra immediately rather than engaging in a costly battle against the Alpha Legion. Most of all, the Khan sought to find answers for himself as to what had happened to the Imperium. Using a fleet formation known as the Chisel, the White Scars broke a nearby Alpha Legion blockade, destroyed several of their warships, and left the Kondak system behind. The Khan eventually decided to return to the source of all of these problems to investigate for himself and arrived at Prospero after its apocalyptic attack by the Space Wolves. Of both sides, the White Scars initially found no sign, but the ghosts of slain Thousand Sons soon appeared, and the White Scars found their weapons ineffective against these deadly enemies, and Master Kinshar ordered an immediate retreat. Eventually, the Khan himself was confronted by an ethereal projection of Magnus the Red, who implored his brother to choose a side in this war and not trust the Emperor. In the end, the Khan shattered the shade with his sword. Jaghatai and his Keshig next encountered Mortarion and his Death Shroud of the Death Guard, and the two sides came to battle. Meanwhile, as White Scars and Death Guard ships began to engage each other in space, the Legion was faced with an attempted coup led by Torgun Khan and Hasik Noyan Khan to take command of the White Scars fleet while it was at Prospero and join their forces with Horus. Cultural tensions between members of the Legion born on Terra and those from Chogoris had been fermenting for years, with many of those from humanity's birthplace favoring Horus, while those from the Khan's adopted world favored loyalty to his word. Thanks to the efforts of Shiban Khan, who led a boarding party onto the Sword Storm and battled the traitors until Jaghatai arrived, the plot failed. Mortarion and the Death Guard withdrew shortly after following a brief battle in space. Surviving traitors within the Scars were condemned to the Sagyar Mazan, suicide units that would atone through death against the enemy. For the next 4 years, the White Scars found themselves trapped far from Terra. Warp storms cut off long-distance warp travel, while the traitor fleets blocked the best routes to humanity's capital. Faced with no other choice, Jaghatai had the Scars wage a hit-and-run campaign of attrition. While damaging to Horus's war effort, it did not halt his progress towards Terra, and 1/5 of the White Scars Legion was lost in the fighting. Soon, it became apparent that the traitors were adjusting to the Scars' tactics, and the Legion slowly became boxed in. It was after the Battle of the Kalium Gate and the death of Kin Shah that the Khan decided that they had suffered enough and a way to Terra would be forged. Eventually, the Scars were able to discover the Dark Glass artifact, and through the sacrifice of Chief Storm Seer Yasuge, a portal into the webway was opened that allowed for the Scars to reach Terra. During the siege of the Emperor's Palace, the White Scars fought alongside the Blood Angels and Imperial Fists against the traitors. They launched several hit-and-run assaults during the siege. When the inner palace was breached, the White Scars led an attack to retake the Lion's Gate spaceport. Jaghatai ordered the assembly of the Legion, the Sky Plate, and pulled together elements of 100 tank regiments, forming the 1st Terran Armored Division. The White Scars attacked from the Colossi Gate, with the Sky Plate providing orbital protection to the tankers and marines on jet bikes. Jaghatai then engaged in personal combat with Mortarion and banished him to the warp, though the Khan was near death following the battle. The White Scars under Shiban Khan, Jaghatai Khan, and Ganzorig Noyan Khan then proceeded to fortify the port with the intention of attacking the traitor armada in orbit and provide access to reinforcements from the Ultramarines, Dark Angels, and Space Wolves to easily get to Terra. After the Horus heresy, the White Scars adopted the Codex Astartes, and the Legion was divided into several chapters. In order to contain the outlaws, renegades, and aliens that dwell within the Maelstrom, Guilliman ordered the surrounding systems to be reinforced. The White Scars were tasked with the main responsibility of securing the area from their homeworld. Since the heresy, the White Scars are led by a single Great Khan and several company-level Khans who serve the role of captains. As their Primark did during his campaign to unite the steppes, recruits from different tribes are today mixed together in squads. Each squad becomes part of a brotherhood, roughly equivalent to a standard company. During the Great Crusade, when the White Scars were still a legion, multiple brotherhoods fell under the control of a horde, roughly equivalent to a chapter. However, unlike other Codex chapters, the White Scars maintain a much higher proportion of bike squadrons and land speeders, a reflection of the style of warfare favored by the chapter. The chapter also maintains relatively few battle tanks, which are often stripped-down versions in order to keep with the rest of the White Scars. Finally, the White Scars of today typically do not possess any dreadnoughts, since the thought of confining a warrior's spirit within a sarcophagus is abhorrent to them. Though there remain a few battle brothers willing to be reborn as one of these ironclad war machines. Thank you for listening to this entry from the Warhammer 40,000 Lexicanum.